Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to do a quick video, not too long. I kind of want to go into a little specifics about the kind of the accuracy for the VFC xm177 and kind of compare it to my favorite series in terms of at least looks, the the ViperTech m733. Both of these models here are m733s by ViperTech. But before I do go into a little bit more of the accuracy and stuff like that, I kind of want to address something last month when I made a video about the review of the XM177 by VFC. I kind of mentioned about my concern concerning the barrel and how it may or may not be a weak point in the barrel. I might have said it was a weak point. I'm not actually sure what I said, to be honest with you. But what I was referring to is that I thought it was a kind of a potential weak point. Because if you remember, this is a barrel extension for the, actually hold on, let me pull out the M733 first to demonstrate where we're talking about, to put into context. So this is an VFC model here. Again, this one particularly has the magnetic particle testing mark on the bottom. But anyway, this is the kind of the extension piece right here. In this model, right, the barrel is an entire fixed a fixed piece essentially, and then attaches this heavy flash suppressor, or flash hider at the front. And so this part is, I'm not exactly sure the material of this here. I think it's some kind of zinc alloy. And when someone asked me what was the material of the WE, I tried looking it up, and it's very vague. According to EVIC, they said it's just some kind of strong metal alloy of some sort. I don't know. I think it's a mixture of a couple of stuff in there, but this actually ended up cracking, as you can tell right here. And so this part right here on the WE model, it's the connector piece, right? So the flash hider here would attach to this front end right here, and then this part right in the center here, this is where the piece would go, like boop, right there, right? And then so this part threads into this part here, which is the rest of the barrel. So when you look at it, right, at least on the WE side, notice how kind of thin the material is, because that's where it attaches. Now, of course, it'll be supported by like the male side of the barrel right here, so it'll thread in here, but that still leaves a little gap right here. And if you look, this is about, let me see if I can get to zoom. This is about to kind of give way, right? You can kind of see it. Now, I want to be very fair to WE right here, because I've had this model for over, I think it's like, what, 10,000 rounds, probably 12, I think at this point, 12,000 rounds. And so it took about a while before this thing got to this point. Now, I think it's around like the 9,000 to 10,000 mark was when it started getting, this cracking was starting to show. And again, I mentioned about replacement parts later on. But I think after thinking about it a little bit, I think the VFC model will not have the same problem, because as a full barrel, or at least as a complete barrel that doesn't rely on an extension piece, right? There isn't that same, the thickness is the same throughout the entire length of the barrel, right? You're not carving out or removing material to make it like an extension piece. So there won't be that little gap right here where it's thinner. And so with the fact, and because remember, when it's thin there, with the addition of the heavy flash hider in the front, it's caused a lot of wobble. This, I don't think, and I could be wrong again, I still don't know, I'm just predicting here, but now that I'm thinking about it, I think this should be better. So, oh, and I do want to point out clear, just so they're not paying me or anything like that. They're not, VFC is not paying me, Cybergun's not paying me anything. I'm just doing this as my own review. I do acknowledge though that, you know, when they, cause I did meet the co-founder of Cybergun down the road, because he has a shop right across from the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. So I kind of walked down there and I had a discussion with him, and I did meet him, and you know, I understand that, you know, when you try to interview someone, he was very nice. He was able to give me an interview when we were talking about products, and I understand it's very difficult to kind of to ask someone like pressing questions, or like, or ask like the criticizing questions, I guess, about certain products or the review, or why is this part like the quality control XYZ. I'm not saying that was the case. I'm just saying like it is tougher to bring up tough questions if someone's nice enough to give you the time of the day to do an interview like that. So I could acknowledge there's some bias there, but in this video, again, I'm not taking any money from them. I'm not doing anything like that. I'm not. So it's my own review, my own opinion of the product here. So in any case, right, so let's move on. That was just to clarify the little barrel issue here. So today, though, I'm not going to be using this one as much. I probably should have, and let me explain why. This ViperTech model was the first one I had, and this is actually my favorite one by far, because I thought there's a tendency that, like, for some reason, the first product you buy, it's really good, and then the follow one you buy as like a backup, it seemed like the quality just wasn't quite there. So for example, but this one here, the second one I bought a while ago, was misaligned, so I had to max out the windage on the rear sight here in order to make it a little bit better, or just shift the impact point. So you'll notice in the shooting test today that like the point of impact is a little bit to the right, but I've already maxed out the windage and I can't adjust any further. So this, unfortunately, you have to do that or Kentucky windage, where you kind of rearrange it in order to hit the right spot. But just like minor things like that, I've noticed that it's just not quite as good as the original. I feel like the quality between the two models wasn't consistent. This one was awesome. Pretty much everything superb. Super with this model. This one a little bit different. Okay, the reason why I'm highlighting so much on this is because I did notice that the accuracy of this was a little bit, the groupings were a little bit larger. When I demonstrated this at my friend's house way back in I think last year, at my friend's house near the lake, and the cabin in the lake, you'll notice that the accuracy was much better at around 40 feet. I only have a range at 40 feet. My yard is only that big here, but back there I had a range that was much larger. And at 40 feet, this thing was doing pretty good in terms of accuracy. You can watch that video down here later on, take a look. It's a long video, but at least for reference, you'll be able to notice that it was pretty good. This one, I've noticed the accuracy the groups got a lot larger. But I will say though, I think part of it has to do with when you get the ViperTech model, you have to understand that they use a lot of the real, what's the word I'm looking for the trigger pull is a lot closer to the real version. And so I think as someone who like me, who's kind of like a beginner and doesn't have like good technique when they're shooting, your accuracy is going to suffer a little bit. So I think that's something to take into consideration, because the trigger pull is larger, and when it's larger, if you take more energy and to pull it, I guess, or strength to pull it, you might inadvertently like turn like the gun without really even knowing it, compared to something that has a much lighter trigger pull. You're not going to be making, or at least not minimal movements to the gun, and which leads to better accuracy and better groupings. That's just my theory, because the trigger pull is like more realistic on this one here. So anyway, so today let's get on to it, and let's talk about the VFC model here. So of course we're going to discuss about we're going to try the VFC model here, and we're going to try to shoot it at 40 feet. I'm going to set up the range. I'm shooting from the prone position. I'm using 0.23 gram BBs for this particular test, and I am basically gonna use this scope here at the very beginning for the first test, and then I'm going to compare it with this model here of the ViperTech without the scope, and then I'm going to try it again with the iron sight below. Keep in mind the iron sight, so it's the A1 model, so it's a little bit different compared to two. And then I'm going to try it again in this case. If it's not that great, I might try it again. Well, we'll go from there. And again, these are the range is basically 20 feet is going to be all indoors, and the remaining 20 feet outdoors. So, and there's very little wind today. So we'll take a look at the results and see how they stack up. All right, guys, but before we go into the results, I'm going to do a quick shameless plug. We've are recently trying to increase our revenue here to help kind of support fun or cooler reviews. So today, this video is not sponsored by Skillshare, but I do want to at least kind of try to do some advertising on products that I actually know about. In many cases, I feel like I am kind of a sellout by advertising products, but at least I want to try to advertise a product that I've used. And as many of you guys know, we've expanded into Europe, and we've really, because I was able to use Skillshare, and within about 6 months, I was able to learn a new language and kind of start this entire new channel, Airsoft Archives in France. I kind of wanted to share it with you guys. It's really simple, and it's not that hard to start off your journey, especially if you guys have an interest in traveling and just meeting new people, and an entire skill set to have. So, I mean, there are other things you can learn, but I can't speak to those skills because I didn't really use what UX or any of these things where I have no idea what that is. But at least for just the language component learning, I was able to learn something and build something out of that. And through that, I felt like my travels and my work has been so much more fun, and just it's surprising how easy it was to learn. If you do so are interested, please click on that link below. There's a Skillshare. It's running this free, not free, but well, it's a free trial for like 30 days, I think. And then afterwards, you can choose to cancel it or to continue it. If you do so, please make sure to try to do the 3-minute club, whether you're trying to learn Spanish, French, German. I think there are more, I can't remember, but I happen to use the French one for where I was targeting to increase my audience size. And so this offer really runs to the end of this month. So click on the link, use this coupon code here, I think, and it helps really actually helps support the channel if you guys do so. Okay, enough of that. Let's get on to the results. Thanks, guys. All right, first up here, we've got ourselves the VFC xm177. This is using the scope. Now, I was aiming at the point where it says the letter A in the center of the target, but at this distance, if you remember, the trajectory does change a little bit. So it's going to go upwards. So coincidentally, at this range, it's going to land above the line of sight. And so that's why it's landing a little bit high, and so it's landing where the I guess the head is, and so from there you can kind of tell about the 6 shots I fired. They happen to 6 or 7 to hit. They're pretty nice, relatively okay groups, about 4 inches right there. So not bad with the scope. Interestingly enough, I think the scope does wobble just a tad bit right there, so there is some differences in there. So you'll see here that if you compare it to later on, I'll show you when I use just the iron sights, you'll notice it will be different. But here we go. Then we move next to the Viper Tech here. This is the Viper Tech. I'm using I flipped to the small aperture sight just to keep things a little bit fair. And again, it could be me right here that's pulling it. And so I know there's a tendency for this gun to shoot a little bit to the right, and I've maxed out the windage, so I can't fix that. But the groups are a lot bigger here. And again, it could be because of tougher trigger pull and I'm not used to it. So it was a little bit challenging. And so I thought that was a little unfair. So I tried it again after I was a little bit used to it. And so here we go again after I taped up all the impact points. The Viper Tech, again, this actually was with the larger aperture, 0.2, the larger aperture on the Viper Tech model. And the group was, again, still to the right. That's expected. But at least the size was a little bit more controllable and predictable compared to the first. So in any case, it does seem, at least for this model, it seems a little bit larger at the 40 feet range compared to the original video when I shot back at the lake. But what's more interesting though, and by the way, there was no, again, I didn't use any scopes for the Viper Tech, it was just the irons. So I decided to switch to irons on the VFC xm177 right here. And as you can tell, it's hard because it's overlapping, but what's interesting is that it was actually, I think what happens, I hit 3 on target, if you look carefully at the image, and The other two or three shots kind of missed the target completely, because as you can see, that space was a little bit, that little small square at the top is a little bit small. So if you don't hit on that point, you'll lose, it won't register, because, you know, there's nothing to mark it as. But I would say that it almost seems like without the iron sights, it's even better, at least at this range, because the iron sight, or the scope wobbles a little bit on the scope, on the Viper Tech model, or say the VFC model, and you can't really, unless you modify a little bit more and add some more padding and spacing to it, it's going to be hard to keep it completely still. But I think it's not bad. Keep in mind that the scope is something that's still helpful, because it gives you positive feedback, or I guess negative. If you're missing, you'll know you're missing, but if you're hitting, you'll kind of know where you're hitting. Whereas if you use iron sight at this distance, you're not going to be able to tell where exactly your shots are hitting. So having that scope really does help with that distance here. Just something I want to point out, I'm not sure how relevant it is though. The barrel for the Viper Tech is a solid brass barrel that kind of ends all the way at the to the very end of the muzzle, and so it's a true 11.5-inch barrel, whereas the Viper Tech, or sorry, the VFC model, even though the outer barrel is an 11.5-inch, it actually ends closer towards the a little bit sooner than that. So it's more of like maybe an 11-inch barrel inside, and it also seems to be made out of like not brass. I don't know if it's like an aluminum or something like that inside rather than brass. I don't know if the substance or the material matters, but it's something I kind of want to point out here. I highly doubt a 1/2 inch is going to make a huge difference, even in terms of like, or at least a significant difference. So that's where we have it there. So kind of a point in favor of the VFC here. I think they've been doing good work, and they've been trying to slowly increase their product. And so this is just one video review. I want to add up a little bit more to show the accuracy and the ability of this, at least at 40 feet, from an average shooter just like myself. All right, hopefully that was interesting. See you guys next time.